Hi again, everyone. Welcome to Doug's Guitar of the Day, episode 16. A lot to talk about on this one. This is probably going to be another one of those 20-minute deals. I got a lot of stories I got to get in on this. We'll go ahead and start with the music on this one. Yesterday was fake jazz, today's fake chicken picking. So here we go. And on and on and on. Tried to use all the different settings this guitar has. So, this goes back a long way. And I don't know if you're. This is about the guitar, but it's also about the amplifier that you'll see behind me, which we'll get to later. This guitar was given to me by my good friend Todd Buckley about a year and a half ago. And I had it, a lot of different times over the years. I got the guitar modification bug really from working on this guitar. Todd had bought this in around 83 or so. I think it's a Japanese made Tele 52 reissue. And pretty decent guitar. I think he got it at Tinkley Bell Music in Charleston. But immediately after I saw it, I thought, oh, you need to do this to it, and you need to do that to it. And he finally gave it to me and said, yeah, do whatever you want. So basically, I did some modifications to it and got over my head really quick. Had to take it to John Gray to bail me out, but I learned a lot by working on it. Basically, the guitar itself has a sunburst finish with binding, maple neck, no skunk stripe on the back. rosewood board. Um, so the modifications that I originally did, I had another good musician friend named Dave Peeler who actually had an original one of these. I don't know if it's 52 or 54. I'm not sure, but one of the first Telecasters made. Now his guitar he had refinished natural, but and he was left-handed and it was a right-handed guitar, so he didn't play it much. So actually I used it, and it had three mini toggle switches on it, so it had already been modified, and it had three different sounds. You could get each pickup individually and both pickups in parallel, which is a standard uh, three-way position. That's your stock Tele sound, but you could also get both pickups in series, which was kind of a warmer sound with a little bit more volume. You could sort of emulate, the Gibson sound a little bit with it. So I wanted to do that modification to Todd's Telecaster. So I took it apart and got my soldering gun out and tried to, I also had Dave's apart too because I had to figure out how to do this modification. Anyway, I must have had one of the wrong switches done, so I took it to John Gray and I said, while you're at it, um, change the tuning keys. So it's got some aftermarket Schaller tuning keys on it, and I also put it had two string trees right here, which holds the strings down over the nut. I took one out and replaced one with graphite just to give it more tuning stability, and also had him install a graphite nut on it. So this plate is still original, and it's hard to tell, but there's actually three small holes on it where the three mini switches actually were. I decided later to go back to the original. So, but then we traded this guitar back and forth over the years, and I decided that I wanted to change the pickups out in it. So I had another Telecaster given to me to use by my friend Grizz England in the late 80s, early 90s. And he's like, yeah, you can do whatever you want to it, modify it or whatever. So I took the back pickup out of it. It was a 71 Tele Custom. And I put another pickup in it and did some coil taps and stuff like that. Ended up giving it back to him, but I had the original pickup out of his Telecaster. So I decided to drop that in here. So it's got a 71 Tele pickup out of a Tele Custom. And for a while, I had a mini humbucker in the front. I had John Gray route for a mini humbucker. Put it in the front. I didn't really like the sound of it too much, and it was kind of microphonic. So my latest version, I ended up going with a Strat pickup. So this is a Fender Stratocaster pickup out of an American Standard Strat that I had bought in the early 90s. So it's in the front, 71 Tele pickup in the back, and then, I don't know, a few years back, could have been close to 20, maybe, Fender came out with a 4-way switch to replace the Telecaster three-way switch. So it gave you your three Telecaster positions, your back pickup, your front pickup, or both pickups in parallel. But it also gave you that fourth position, which was both pickups in series, which is kind of the sound that I wanted to try to get out of this the whole time. So this front pickup is reverse wound, reverse polarity from the back. So anytime you got a two pickup combination, it cancels out all the noise. So other modifications, I ended up going with the 6 saddle bridge, and I did that pretty recently. The 3 saddle bridge, it worked okay, but the neck pitch was kind of off on this one, and the screws stuck up at a weird angle, and you could feel them on your hand as you were playing. So I ended up putting a 6 saddle bridge on it, so now it intonates better. I replaced the pots. At the time I was in Memphis, the St. Blues uh, guitar factory and showroom was just down the street from me, and they were selling these 250K pots for like $2.50 a piece. So I bought a few. They got a really nice taper to them, so I put new pots in it, and I also rewired it in 50s wiring, which usually um, Strats and Teles aren't wired that way, but I got used to that on my Gibson, so I wired it the same way. So it has no treble bleed cap like most Telecasters do. Go through the sounds real quick. I tried to hit all of them on the futile attempt at chicken picking, but here's the back pickup. It's got that traditional Tele twang. You can't really get that out of any other kind of guitar, and I think it's got to do with the metal plate on the bottom of the pickup, connected to this big bridge pickup surround that's also metal. It's kind of a metallic twang. It's really hard to get that out of anything. So that's the back pickup. And of course, I've master volume and master tones, traditional Tele fashion. Next position is a standard Tele position, both pickups in parallel. So that's pretty standard. Nice clangy, chimey sound. Your next pickup, and this is where I kind of like how this works. I've got the Strat is the front pickup only, and since I've got a Strat pickup in it, it gets more of a bluesy Strat, Stevie Ray type sound. Which that's good. So I never liked the Tele neck pickup alone. It always sounded a little bit too hollow to me, and most of them were pretty microphonic and would take off and squeal on you. Next position is the position that's not standard on most Teles, and this new four-way switch allows you this combination which is both pickups in series. So here it is. Get a little bit more output, and it's a little bit more warmer sounding. That's good too. Anyway, it's real versatile. I haven't got this out in a long time. Um, it hasn't been really played that much. Usually, when I had it, I played it pretty regularly. In the bands that I was in. When Todd had it, he'd play it once or twice and put it back in the case. The back of it still looks pretty good, and the neck really doesn't have any dings. It's still got plenty of fret left on it. There is a chip right here, and Todd didn't know how that happened. I didn't either. And there's another one, hard to see on here, right here on the side, but this chip is pretty interesting, and kind of a weird backstory on this guitar. And I always wanted to do this, and I never did. But Todd had a dream that he took this guitar apart for whatever reason, and underneath the pick guard, he found out that underneath this wood, he thought this was a wood veneer, and underneath it was the guitar was made out of blue styrofoam board like they used on construction. So what I always wanted to do is take this little chip and kind of paint it blue, just to kind of remember that dream. I always thought that was weird. It is a light guitar, but I remember that he's like, yeah, I dream my guitar is made out of blue styrofoam, and you told me I should take it back to the store or something like that. So there's a little story about that. Um, it used to have two string trees. I probably mentioned I took one of them off, and that's so you can do behind the nut bending with the G string, where you can kind of do a fake pedal steel type sound. Uh, Still stays in tune pretty good when you do that. Um, that's about it. We'll talk about the amplifier, and I know you can't really see it, but it's a Fender Champ. Actually, the chassis is, and it was bought by my friend Daryl Smothers in the '80s. He actually bought it at a bluegrass festival at the Holiday Inn in Decatur, Illinois. They usually have a little guitar sale too at the same time. I think he paid $75 for it. He wasn't really an electric guitar player. I asked him if I could borrow it, and I borrowed it for a while. And I was starting to get into how the tube amplifiers ticked, so I actually, if I could take it apart and experiment with it. And over the years, I did. I never did fry it or smoke it, but I made some changes to it. And the last thing I did to it was I ordered a different cabinet. A Fender Champ usually has a small 8-inch speaker, and I really didn't like that sound, so I found a cabinet that would house the Fender Champ chassis but had a 12-inch speaker hole in it. So basically, it's that same chassis with a 12-inch speaker. Now, I have rewired the amplifier. I kind of backdated it to 50s specs, which is basically, it's got three knobs. It's got volume, treble, and bass. But in the 50s, all they had was volume. And so I've got the treble and bass knobs disconnected. It's only a 5-watt amp, but it's pretty loud for 5 watts, and it breaks up really quick and gets a pretty nice distortion. I've got it on about 2.5 right now, and that's about as loud as you can get it without it starting to distort. But it was made as a practice amp, and it does excellent. People actually use amps like this a lot for recording. But now, what I'll show in the pictures on the side of this cabinet that I bought, I had my son wood burn a lighthouse on one side and a ship on the other side. And then I covered it with kind of a tan wheat colored grill cloth. So it's really a nice looking amp. So between Todd Buckley's guitar, Daryl Smothers amplifier, and my son's art skills on it, these two pieces are in my collection to stay. I have used this on a few different recordings and many live gigs. This guitar anyway. It's really stable, really versatile. It does have the standard, Fender 25.5-inch scale, so it's a little harder for me to get around on than a Gibson, but unique sound, and it's just with the backstory and all the modifications and stuff, and 4 people, being involved in this particular rig. I think it's really cool. So, yeah, we're about close to 20 minutes. That's what I thought. So, appreciate your time. We only got one more of these to go, and I'm going to try to make tomorrow's a big production. Kind of play some rock and roll, which is most of what you all want here. Anyway, all right. See you later. Bye.